evening. This is What a Week. My name is Tony Crossbody. Every Tuesday between 7:30 and 8:30, we discuss topics of the last 7 days, specifically topics that concern our people. We'll be joined by Mr. C in a very short while, where we'll be discussing some of the news of this week. So I'm going to take the opportunity to share, because it's Black History Month, and let's face it, every month should be Black History Month, but I'm going to share some information as a continuation of what we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 weeks. If you've missed some of the Black History talks that we've had, you can go back into YouTube and medianet.tv, where you can see some of the subjects we were discussing. Last week, we discussed the idea that some of you, Black people, are not descendants of African slaves. Okay, and then the week before that, we discussed Henry VIII and his very strong connections to Hackney. So you can go back and sort of fill yourself in with those details. But today, I want to talk about the idea of propaganda, and it's how useful a tool it is for those who basically control the flow of information. You see, history is really told by the conquerors to the captives. And whatever we're told, particularly through the education system, is basically what we end up believing. The education system that teaches us is bolstered by the media, who make movies and documentaries about these historical characters that cement in our minds what we are to believe is true. The problem with this, of course, is that a lot of the propaganda is nothing but that, lies. We'll throw up a slide just to show what I'm talking about. If we can look at the first slide, what we will find here is that portrait paintings of historical characters have been faked for hundreds of years. Here is a museum in France which found out that nearly half its collection was fake. What is the purpose of faking paintings? It is to give you a history that you are supposed to believe. In our next slide, this idea of fake paintings continues. Nope. That is not the next slide, brother. The slide. There you go. 10 times famous works of art turned out to be fake. So famous works of art that are used to propagandize actually end up being very, very fake. Today, we have a modern counterpart of propaganda, which is the movies. A lot of us have seen movies such as Cleopatra, where we are told or indoctrinated with this idea that Cleopatra is supposed to be a white lady who ruled Egypt. And we have grown up believing that, many of us. And so we have to be aware of the fact that history is not what it seems. And let me give you an example. If we can just put up the next slide, please. Here is 4 different pictures of the same character, right? This is supposed to be Anne Boleyn, okay? For those of you who know your history, Anne Boleyn was the second wife of Henry VIII, and she was executed. But this is supposed to be her. So you've got 4 different artistic impressions of her. Let's put the picture back up, please. 4 different artistic impressions of her, but they're all different. So how can we actually know what the truth is about Anne Boleyn or how she looked? Well, interestingly, there are actually written records which actually describe Anne Boleyn and her features. Let me just read for you. In 1532, a Venetian ambassador who visited the court of Henry VIII. Picture back up, please, brother. Leave it up there, please. Thank you. Right, the picture that we're looking at now, which is supposedly Anne Boleyn, is described in this way, right? She says that she's not, a Venetian ambassador says she's not the handsomest woman in the world. She is of middling stature with a swarthy complexion. A swarthy complexion. Now, if we look at the next slide, what is the definition of swarthy? The etymology or the root meaning of the word swarthy is actually black. So here a Venetian ambassador is describing Anne Boleyn as someone with a black complexion. Let's go back to her picture again, please. Do those pictures actually look like someone who is swarthy, according to the 17th century description? No, clearly not. So what are these paintings here? Are they real paintings of a person, or are they part of fakes that were produced in order to give an impression of what Anne Boleyn looked like? Now, Anne Boleyn, as I just pointed out a few moments ago, was the wife of Henry VIII. Let's have a look at his picture a second. Now this is Henry VIII. The picture on the left is Henry VIII when he was a boy, and the one on the right is him as an adult. Now this looks very different than the Henry VIII that we're used to seeing, but nevertheless, these are illustrations of Henry VIII. Now Henry VIII, as I said, married Anne Boleyn, who is described as swarthy. And between the two of them, a child came into this world. Let's have a look at that picture, please. That's the next one along. So that was Anne Boleyn. Go on, carry on. Next one. No, that's not the one, brother. That's the one with that's it. There you go. So if you look at this picture here, on the right-hand side, we have King Henry VIII, and at the top, Anne Boleyn. And they had a child called Queen Elizabeth I. Ooh, Queen Elizabeth I. So we have a king of color. We have a woman described as being swarthy or black. And between them, they have a child who they name Elizabeth, who becomes Elizabeth I, one of the most celebrated queens of England. So what's going on here? What have we been taught in school? What have we been taught in the movies? What have we been taught through the documentaries? Haven't we been taught that all these characters, all the characters that have sat on a British throne, are white? Furthermore, how is Queen Elizabeth I described? Let me give you a description. She is spoken of, she's spoken of as being short and ruddy in complexion. Now let's go back to that picture, brother. Go back to the picture that we just, that's it. Short and ruddy in complexion. Ruddy is basically today would be like red skin, right? Red. That's how she's described. She's also described that she was swarthy. Again, the word swarthy comes up to describe Queen Elizabeth I. So her mother is described as swarthy. Her dad has dark hair with curly hair, and she is also described as being swarthy. So isn't that interesting? And that's something that we weren't taught in school. But of course, the historians say, well, nobody actually knows what Queen Elizabeth I looks like, but she is described by those who saw her during her time as being swarthy. Her mother is spoken of as being swarthy and having a dark complexion. Let's move on. Here's another person who sat on the British throne. Many of you would know her. This article came out in The Guardian back in 2009, asking, was this Britain's first black queen? This is Charlotte, Queen Charlotte, the wife of George III. She was Queen of England between 1801 and 1818. And it's very interesting when you look at these types of articles, but because they always question, the interesting thing about it is that when they can't deny that this is a person of color, they always resort to saying, oh, well, it's because they had African ancestry. Now, why that? Why do viewers, historians often say that? They have African ancestry because in your mind, you're only supposed to associate black people with Africa. That is where all black people live, Africa. They're nowhere else. You see, everywhere else in the world is inhabited by whites. So when you see someone in Europe that's black, then what you find is they tell you that she has African descent. But her roots, interestingly, are from Germany. She has German roots. Next slide. And this lady here is actually the granddaughter. This is Queen Victoria. This is actually the granddaughter of Queen Charlotte. Let's go back to Charlotte, please. Let's go back. No, Charlotte, the Guardian article. The Guardian. There you go. Evening, Mr. C.
Evening all.
Yeah. So this is Queen Charlotte, married to George III, was the Queen of England. And her granddaughter is Queen Victoria. Next picture, please.
Amazing stuff.
Next slide. Now look at this picture of Queen Victoria. Does she look purely white to you? Sometimes it depends on, you could look at certain photographs and pictures, but
she looked like she come from St. Elizabeth. More than Queen Elizabeth. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You see, black people can look at other black people and can see black in them, right? You can look at a person, no matter how white they look, you can look at some of their features and say, no, you got black in you somewhere. We just saw that she is the granddaughter, right? She is the granddaughter of Charlotte, Queen Charlotte. Okay? Now I want to show you another picture of Queen Victoria. Let's move on.
Amazing, mate. They've whitewashed their history as well.
Now look at this picture. Can you, Mr. C, what jumps out at you in this picture? Can you say
the lady in the back who's saying, right, who's looking, saying, "Is that chicken I can smell?"
Right. Now in this picture, the lady sitting down in front of her is actually Queen Victoria. Who looks right in the picture, right? But who is this black woman in the back with the hat on?
Yeah.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is a lady known as Princess Victoria.
No way.
Of Prussia. She is Queen Victoria's granddaughter.
Wow.
Where did Queen Victoria get the black genes to pass on to this granddaughter that we're looking at in the picture?
Wow.
This picture was taken apparently at Balmoral Castle. I think it was 1881. We have another picture of her, which is actually even better. Let's move on to the next slide, please, brother. There she is.
No. That's a black woman.
This is Queen Victoria's granddaughter.
I've seen her in the Royal Lounge.
Probably. Or someone who looks just like her, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about her, what's interesting about her is that she is the daughter, right? Her father is the emperor of what was known as Prussia. Not Russia, Prussia. Prussia is basically where Germany and Poland now sit.
Okay.
She is the daughter of the emperor of Prussia.
And what was that cat's name?
Oh, goodness me, now you got me. I lost it.
Don't worry, man. We just concentrate on her. She's the most important thing.
Right. The thing about her and all these other characters that I'm trying to point out to everyone listening is this idea that black people have never been just limited to Africa. They have not been limited to Africa. They have been all over Europe. Last week, we saw how the original people of these islands, scientists pointed out that they were black. Cheddar Man. That his existence on these islands dated from 7,100 BC. Long before the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and all these other characters came to Britain. So let's put that picture back up again, please, brother. So this lady is actually of indigenous German descent. Right?
So, I mean, so the original Germans we're saying now are...
There you go. And her grandmother, right? So in other words, her mother's mother somehow managed to make her turn black. Right?
She looked very stylish there, I must admit, man. You could see that she bro. She got it going on, that princess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She was called they called her Young Vicky.
Young Vicky.
Yeah, because she was named after Queen Victoria. Her mother was also named Victoria, and so she was named Victoria as well.
I'll tell you what, it's a shame that picture's in black and white, because I'm sure if it was in color, you would see the different colors that she had in her hair as well. Because that even looked like a kind of look back at it. That, come on, who's doing their hair like that? It's only a black woman's doing their hair like that, bro. And she got all the Coca-Cola bottle shape as well. What?
Unfortunately, her life it was quite a sad one, quite kind of tragically. So it was pretty sad. But she had a lot of family support, and it just begs the question. I mean, what's going on here? Why whenever we hear German, Spanish, Polish, we automatically default to a setting of white, that these are white people. Let's have a look at the next slide, please.
I'm loving this journey, Tony.
Right.
So whose heirloom is this?
Right. So this is a crest, okay, of a particular place in Germany called Coburg. Right?
Okay. So
what has Coburg, or what has Germany got to do with black people? If there were never any black people there.
Good question.
This crest goes back to the 1500s. Let's look at the next slide just to confirm where Coburg actually is. If you look at the actual map, you will see just north of Nuremberg and east of Frankfurt. It's a place called Coburg.
And just west of Czechia, which is, is that Czechoslovakia now? Or is that
Yeah. Right. So that is Coburg, and Coburg has a crest which has a black man on the front, and that crest goes back to about the 1500s. So again, maybe the whole way we're looking at history from a black perspective, we probably need to reassess it, because a lot of what we believe about Europe is really what we've been indoctrinated with.
Wow.
And
man.
The idea that somehow black people sitting on the thrones of Europe is something so far-fetched. Actually, it's not. Admittedly, there's not a great deal of information with regard to black kings and queens, but there's enough for you to be able to build a picture of understanding, and to understand that when you watch the TV, when you watch documentaries and film, it's nothing more than propaganda. Now, I'm not saying that every king and queen that sat on the British throne was black. No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that many were.
Or
But
and some had a splash of both color in them.
some are, yeah, exactly. A lot of them were mixed, right?
Mm.
But the point is, why is this being hidden? Why is this information being suppressed? What is the reason? What is the reason behind that? Because if black people kind of realized what contribution they really made to this society, I wonder how that would affect us. I wonder how it would affect our young people.
Oh, definitely. I mean, look, if we knew that Queen Victoria was of color, I mean, come on, that again, it those kind of things, it kills racism straight away, doesn't it? Because you can't be British and proud if one of your greatest queens was of color. You have to, you have to check yourself, check your behavior. Again, some of the fascists in Germany, or the extreme fascists in that part of it, and again Poland as well. These kind of truths will definitely make those people have to check their behavior, because a lot of racism stems from the fact that this is our country, mate. Right. Go back to where you belong.
Right.
So, yeah, it puts a whole completely different spin on it. Completely different spin on it, Tony.
It's like someone stole your car and took the logbook and the MOT and gave it a spray job, and then you happen to see him driving on the high street and you went to challenge him, and he tells you, "No, man, I might car this, brother. I got the logbook." Yeah, you used to have a black car. This one's white now, so it's not yours. So you see, and now you've got to go through the hard work of going back to DVLA, right?
Yeah.
And trace the car through the VIN number and this and that. And this guy's telling you, no, it's not your car, mate. It's not, no. It looks like yours, but no, it's not yours.
But
the whole history. Yeah, go on.
No, but I suppose in that scenario that you've just given, what would happen once you track the VIN number and everything else, that you get your car back. However, I mean, the facts that you're unveiling and unrevealing, I should say, revealing over the last 3 weeks since we've introduced this history part, this Black history part into the show, Tony, is that will we now get our countries back? Would we now get our lands back? Is the question.
That's an excellent question. But I think the first place we start with is the having to undo a lot of the indoctrination that we suffer from, and I think that we have to admit to ourselves that we are indoctrinated, because we have been indoctrinated and we haven't known any better. And you can't leave it to your conquerors to teach you, because that's not their job.
Yeah.
Your conqueror's job is to conquer you, right? To
Very
conquer
good
your body,
point. Very good point.
Conquer your mind, conquer your soul,
your possession.
And turn you,
yeah.
Right. And turn you into one of them.
Which they've done a very good job.
Which you've done a very good job, right?
They've done a very good job.
They've done a very, very good job, right? So that's the problem we face. Is it's now moving from that indoctrinated position that we currently hold and have to admit to ourselves, because we've been bombarded with TV since we were children, and everything we've seen on the TV has been white, right? And therefore, and also do our due diligence in trying to understand the part that our ancestors have played on these islands and the continent of Europe. And I think that I don't think people realize what that does to you once you actually come across this type of information, right? It does give you a sense of belonging. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. You weren't just swinging in trees and, and then civilized, and then this is the best thing that ever happened to you. No.
So Tony, let me ask you a question. So when you unreveal this kind of stuff to our children in schools, what's their general response to this? How do they respond to this? What are some of the things they have said to you?
Initially, it's a bit of disbelief because, of course, they're sort of learning this stuff at the same time that I'm there teaching it, right? So
is that from the children or from the actual teachers in the school as well? Because I'm not.
no,
It must be a shock for them.
no. I mean, to be honest, the teachers don't really sanction what I teach.
Right. Okay.
And I mean, and unfortunately, you've got black teachers in school that tell me that no, this is not true. This is not right. Yeah.
Black teachers.
Yeah. So you've got a hurdle right there. You see, you've got a hurdle right there. The indoctrination is deep because remember, teachers have gone to teachers' college and they've learned how to teach history in the way that they've been taught, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how they get the jobs.
But
so when they come to school, when they come to the school, they teach that European curriculum, right?
So the response from the young people is
so the response from the young people is like, it's wow. It's like, wow. I didn't know that, right? I thought we all came from Africa. Wow, I didn't know that there were actual Europeans or black people actually sat on the British throne. And in quite a few cases, I would say, the behavior, especially with the boys, has changed a lot. Changed a lot.
That's amazing, man. Absolutely amazing.
I've got letters from the school, right? Thanking me for the work, my mentor work that I've done. They don't realize, of course, that it's because a lot of it's the historical stuff I teach them. But
they see the results.
But the results is what they're interested in, right? So turning around young youth that was going to be roadman on the street and then getting them to be serious about their work at school, serious about progressing, right? Serious about advancing themselves in their world, realizing, okay, that they actually were somebody and they are somebody. I've had letters written to me personally from the students, right? Appreciating that fact. And so I know that adults need it, right?
Listen, not just children. Absolutely 100%. Tony, man, that's another nutshell. I mean, like, what you dropped about Anne Boleyn as well, because, you know, she's a character we've heard about from since we were so young. And to know that she was a woman of color, absolutely mind-blowing. Bruv, mind-blowing. You're dropping some nuggets here, so thank you so much for that.